Hey there, are you ready to build a fitness business that becomes a true income-producing asset? Then I welcome you to the Fitness Business Freedom Show, brought to you by Fitness Revolution. I am your host, Justin Hanover, and we have over 15 years of experience building thriving fitness businesses, and we are committed to sharing our knowledge and expertise with you. You can expect to hear proven business foundations and frameworks, success stories from our coaching partners, and guest experts to give you straight answers for your biggest questions. It doesn't matter if you have an online business, fitness facility, or operate as an independent trainer, you are in the right place to grow your business and create the personal freedom you desire. Welcome to today's episode. I'm your host, Justin Hanover, success coach with Fitness Revolution. Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to share a little bit about what you can expect to hear and who I have joining us. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Trevor Wittwer. And a little background on him in order of least importance. Trevor is an ex-professional athlete, boutique fitness facility creator, software founder, coach, dad to two, and a husband to one. He got his feet wet in the fitness industry, training himself for peak performance. And after a pro contract fell through, he started his professional fitness career. And over the next 4 years, he grew a client base from 0 to over 220 in a rural farming community of 5,000 people. And scaling a client base past just a handful of clients brings certain limitations to the surface. One of those is providing an exceptional experience and maintaining high level of accountability for each individual. And since launching the software coach Catalyst in 2016, he has been fortunate to bring two awesome boys, Asher and Ezra, into this world with his incredible wife, Erin. So within our conversation, we really hit on the technology side of the fitness industry, given that obviously he's in the software space with Coach Catalyst, and it is designed to not only bring more personal touch to your business, but allow you to run your business efficiently. And if you still have been trying to do everything through multiple platforms, maybe different communication channels or spreadsheets, then this would be the perfect conversation for you to listen in on. You will even hear where Trevor sees the technology in the fitness space going and how Coach Catalyst is staying on top of it. So really important to have your pulse on this topic as we move forward in the rest of this year and in the future. So enough of me. Let's dive into this conversation with Trevor. Today's episode is brought to you by Fitness Revolution. So you started your fitness business and you've been in the game now for a few years. You might have even seen some good growth over those years, but now you feel stuck. You feel like the momentum you once had just isn't there and you don't know how to get it back. Should you be focusing on your marketing, your sales, or your team? What is the next bottleneck to focus on that will allow you to break the chains holding you back? That's a great question. And one of the biggest skill sets as an owner is to be able to understand and identify the next biggest issue to keep your business moving forward. And that is exactly why Fitness Revolution has created our proprietary needs assessment to allow you to quickly see where your business stacks up and receive immediate feedback on what to focus on next. It's a quick 10-question assessment that will be able to provide valuable feedback to get past sticking points and hit your next goal. Whether you're currently stuck or feeling frustrated with your progress or just want to dial in what's working, this assessment is the first step to making that happen. I invite you to head over to the show notes where a direct link to the needs assessment will be so you can easily access it there. Now, let's jump into today's show. Trevor, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to hop on here with me and share your journey and insights with other gym owners.
Hey, thanks for having me, Justin. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So let's start with, before we move into the specific questions, let's start with kind of like that 1,000-foot overview of how Coach Catalyst came to be and why it is such an important endeavor for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always important to have context because especially when you're listening to people talk, you kind of see where they're at now versus where they came from. And so I kind of took the quintessential coach or trainer journey where I started coaching my mom and my stepdad at the local community center, and ultimately started building a business there. And it wasn't until I think it was like 70 clients, or till the numbers actually made sense, where I moved into my own facility, and started in a facility, and moved all our operations there. And we've kind of since grown. We have 4 different facilities now, but Coach Catalyst really, so at heart, I'm really an entrepreneur. It's like I have probably undiagnosed ADD. And so I need to be kind of doing a lot of different things at once. And I really love coaching. And so through the gym space, like when you get into any industry, you start to realize like, where are their issues, where are their problems? And in the coaching industry, I loved fitness and I loved working out and I loved helping people. But what we started to realize was like, people needed more than just workouts. Like they needed nutrition coaching, they needed lifestyle coaching, they need some of these other aspects. But all those things happen away from you, right? They happen in the other part of the day when a client isn't with you, right? They come to you for the workouts. And so there's really kind of the impetus for really Coach Catalyst came down to the kind of, I boiled it down to this like a single experience. So we did a lot of challenges at our facilities to grow and to help as like a front end offer. Right. And so as part of any of our challenges, we kind of have a promise that someone's going to lose weight and they're going to have success. And for a while there, we were running massive challenges. We'd run them with 80, 100, 120 people. And so once you start getting to those numbers, like it's hard to manage that many people. Workouts is not hard. That's because that's kind of what you're doing. They fall into the system. But it's like, how do you manage those people from a nutrition standpoint? Because if you're talking about transformation, nutrition has to be a critical component of that. And, we used to just give out, here's the handout, here are the principles you need to follow, like just execute. And we follow up a little bit during sessions and that kind of stuff, but it just wasn't good enough. And so this experience that always sticks out in my mind is the client was stepping on the InBody at the end of a challenge, and she ends up gaining 3 pounds. And so as a coach, I just feel devastated because like I promised to her that I was going to help her be successful. And ultimately she wasn't. She went in the opposite direction. Yes, she was showing up for workouts and doing all the stuff she needed to in the gym, but we had no idea what she was doing nutritionally. So we couldn't help her be successful there. And when we're talking about fat loss, like nutrition trumps exercise every day of the week, right? So I called up my buddy Kane, who is, I went to school with Kane. We played college basketball together, lived in the same house for a couple of years, and went our different paths after college. But then both had a common bond later, which was gym ownership. And so he had recently purchased a gym. I was running mine. I kind of called him up and talked about this frustration, and he was having some of the same stuff. And so we're like, all right, we started searching for a solution. There was nothing really on the internet at that point, or any tech solutions to the problem that we wanted to solve, which was ultimately like holding clients accountable when they weren't with us. And so I wanted to know if Susie was drinking her water or eating her vegetables or getting her protein in or whatever we wanted them to do. I wanted to be able to easily pull that up and look at my clients and see how successful they were, rather than like, if you've ever done any coaching in a one-on-one format where you sit down with a client and you ask them to like, hey, how'd the last week go? And then they just start like trying to remember all of the things that they did. Like, oh, we wanted to work on water. How did that go? Well, I think I did it this day and it was a little better that day. And so we didn't really have any good data to see like, oh, cool, you got it 90% of the time. Awesome. Let's move on to the next thing. We have to rely on human memory, which is pretty unreliable, subjective, right? Yeah. Exactly. And so there really wasn't any software solutions out there. So I don't have a tech background. Kane doesn't have a tech background. So we just like, all right, we'll figure this out and we'll just build it. We look back on like our first iteration of Coach Catalyst, which was at that point called Habit Catalyst. And it's pretty embarrassing to see like what we launched with, but like, we just needed to get something out there. So since then, I mean, we're 5.5 years old now. We'll be 6 years in June. And the software has evolved a lot since then, where it first started with, it was very simple. It was like an action and a lesson. And it was every day there was an action and a lesson. What do you need to work on? And the education and the lesson was all about like performing that action better. And it's since evolved into a much more flexible product. But at the end of the day, we were like, hey, if it solves our problem and we can use it in our own facilities to provide a better experience for our clients, then like we're okay. If no one else wants to buy this, fine. Like we need this for our own clients. But then as we started to put it out there, we realized that a bunch of other people were having very similar issues. And so Coach Catalyst then grew into its own business. So yeah, that's kind of the long, short story.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you said, it's good to hear that and understand what the purpose of this, because that really helps, I think, people grasp the importance of this and the capabilities of this software. So I think it's really good to hear that backstory and that journey and where you started and where you are now. And it's kind of like your thought process behind it. So obviously, originally it was to address the biggest issue of managing people and what their actions were. So did it fulfill that when you guys first launched it in your facility?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the time I had just, right before we launched, actually probably a year before we launched, I had become PN2 certified. So if you're familiar with precision nutrition, like I've sufficiently drank the Kool-Aid. I think they're one of the best education companies out there. They actually launched Pro Coach like a month after we launched Coach Catalyst. But we've kind of grown apart as far as softwares go. They're night and day different at this point. But really for me too, I wanted a way to coach habits, and I wanted to be able to educate my clients in a systemized manner. And I wanted to know whether or not they were successful with their habits. And so it started very basic, like, hey, for these 7 days, you're working on protein. For these 7 days, you're working on vegetables. And I was able to simply look at my dashboard and see, like, is a client on track or off track? So we were able to like close the gap, right? So if you ever do nutrition coaching, you know, there's this gap that you need to fill from meeting to meeting. And so I have a meeting with a client or a group of clients, and then they're going to work on some stuff, and then we're going to have another meeting. And so that gap needs to be filled. And if you're trying to provide accountability and you don't have technology, you're like sending text messages, you're maybe sending emails, an automated email sequence, maybe you have a Google sheet that they need to like fill out. But that works for a period of time, but ultimately it's cumbersome. And if it's challenging for the client, like they're just not going to do it anymore. And so the solution has to be really, really simple. And so when we first launched, we wanted the solution to be as simple as possible. So every day the client basically got a question: did you drink 2 liters of water? And it said yes or no. And they had to tick yes or they tick no. And then once they did that, they got a little lesson for the day and then kind of moved on to the next thing. So it helped us start to manage and coach 50, 100 people at one time, because we now had technology to be able to do it and actually keep track of them and like know if they're on track or off track. Because like ultimately at the end of the day, like Coach Catalyst doesn't replace coaching, it enhances the coaching process. And so it actually gives you data as a coach to be a better coach. Like that's what it's for. So I can look at my dashboard and see, hey, Justin hasn't checked in the last 2 days. Justin's going to get a message from me that says, hey, Justin, saw you haven't checked in the last couple of days. You know, how's your habit of water going? Kind of thing. And then now all of a sudden, Justin's like, oh man, like Trevor's actually paying attention to whether or not I check in on a regular basis. And so now Justin's more apt to check in because he knows that the coach is paying attention. And then when we sit down to have that meeting, we can look at it and be like, oh, awesome. Looks like during the week you killed it, but on the weekends, you check no both days. Like, what do you think's happening on the weekend that isn't allowing you to be successful at this? And then we can have that conversation. And we don't waste the first 10 minutes of the meeting having the client try and recall how the last like week went. Like we have data right there that can tell us about it. And then like when we go back, like transformation challenges, those were a big, or really challenges in general, were and still are a big part of our business as far as bringing in new clients and an additional revenue stream. And like our experience with clients now is exponentially better because we can build out these daily. Are you on track? Are you off track? Are you doing the things you need to do? Are you not doing the things you need to do? And then we can systemize our education as well. And it's all in one spot. It's all in an app. The client just opens it up. And we have all our stuff branded too. So it's branded to our gym. So they just open up our gym's app and everything is there. They have their lessons there. They have their actions there. They have the communication there. It's all in one spot, making it really easy for the client. Because like, ultimately, at the end of the day, if it's challenging at all, you're not going to get adoption and you're not going to get adherence. And so that's kind of one of our principles at Coach Catalyst is how do we make this as simple as possible for the client. And that's one of the reasons why our actions are like done or not done. Did you do it or didn't you do it? It's kind of yes or no, right? At the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's very true. And I think that's why like things like you said, like simple solutions, like just sharing like a Google spreadsheet or something like that, in theory sounds good, but in reality, it is more work for both parties to do to make something like that work. Or like you said, relying on communication and remembering. I mean, it's just, there's too many areas for things to get lost.
Right.
And like you said, like the simplicity of this just makes it more effective. And like ultimately, like you said, you have data then, so then you really can know what the problem is and can address it. And also, I think like expectations are easier to be addressed with people, because we know obviously clients can come with unrealistic expectations sometimes with like their progress or thinking that they should be achieving more. Well, then you can go back and obviously like you address the data of what's happening and be able to paint the picture for them.
Right. Are your behaviors matching your results? Yeah. Like at the end, and they probably are. Like if you're not getting the results you want, let's look at the behaviors, and they're maybe not up to the level that they should be in order to achieve the thing that you want to achieve. The other really cool thing that when you start having some data to look at is like you can start to look at the efficacy of your programs. So let's say you have a 6-week whatever challenge, transformation, whatever. You can basically say if a client is 90% or more adherent to our program, they will see X results, or so they'll see this range of results, right? Everyone says they get results. It's awesome. Yeah, we get results. Yeah. Stuff. Great. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. But I can literally go in and say, like, if you're 70 to 80% compliant to our program, here's probably the range on where you're going to fall. Obviously, everybody's physiology is a little bit different, but if you're truthful with the check-ins and going through it, like here's probably where you're going to fall. And so we can start to show people as your adherence goes up, here are the results that happen. And these are actual numbers. They're not just kind of made up numbers that we're fabricating to try and sell our programs, which is kind of what you see with a lot of places out there.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, because for the most part, there really isn't any data to back up anything.
No.
So yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I would say, like a unique approach from that standpoint. So with the original vision of the software of obviously it being able to track people and the accountability aspect, is that still the focus now? Like the biggest problem that you guys want to address now?
Yeah, I mean, so at the core of the software is how do we make a coach like a super coach? And we do that with data, and we also do it with these systems. And so most people and most coaches rely on their brain for everything. So I got to remember to text that client, or I got to remember to do this, or remember to do that. Maybe have some systems like Google Calendar to try and make it happen. But really the goal with Coach Catalyst is to be a system where you can basically get all this stuff out of your brain that you need to remember to do, and you can systemize that. We call it the client journey. You can systemize that client journey. And now there's this frequency that happens from an education standpoint, a communication standpoint, without you having to do anything as a coach. And then now you come on top of that as a coach and you do we call it the spontaneous communication, or the shout outs, that kind of stuff, the checking on things and kind of manipulating the journey. But the system does it all. And really at the core of Coach Catalyst, we call it like a bridge between the coach and the client. So it's a way to transfer information back and forth. And as a coach, I can see what's going on with my client without having to like bug my clients in a way on a regular basis, or manually like reach out to them. And so like at the core of it is definitely still accountability, because we know with the coaching process, like accountability is a key component in that. But we really look at Coach Catalyst as like a holistic coaching tool. So like, what are the pieces that every coach does well, or what are the pieces that every coach needs in order to be successful? They need to definitely hold their clients accountable to the things they're supposed to do, right? They need to educate their client. So they need to be able to teach the client, so that makes the actions that much easier, because the client understands the what, the why, the how behind it. Coach needs to be able to communicate and build a connection with that client. And so that's another huge thing that we've went really deep on, is the communication aspect. It's one of the reasons we developed like video messaging. So I could send a video message to my client, or I could send an audio message to my client instead of just text. Because especially if you're an online coach and most of your interaction is online, there's so much like nonverbal communication. There's so much that's lost when you're not in person. And if you go from being in person to online only, like you kind of forget that a lot of relationship, a lot of connection is built just being in the same space with someone. All that nonverbal communication, the mannerisms, everything that happens there. And so it's hard to replicate that online because most people default to text, whether it's email or whether it's text message. You don't get the same nuance. You don't get the same personality with just words. And so that's why we went deep with communication, and we did you can just record a video for your client, because that's so much more powerful than just typing out the same thing. Right. And then the same thing with audio, and then being able to add GIFs in and images. So there's personality and all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, like if you have a connection with your client, a strong connection, they're probably going to be a client for a long time. But if it's very surface level, they're probably not. And so actually we saw that with all this pandemic stuff, right? The gyms that survived, or the gyms that were really successful during that time, I shouldn't even say successful, because there's very few that probably did really well during the pandemic. But those that had strong connections with their clients survived at the end of the day. Absolutely. They were able to take a brick and mortar and offline business and flip it into this online model that was just janky, and 70% of their clients still paid them, right? Yeah. Whether or not they used the service or not, they were still paying them because they were connected to the people that were behind that business, right? And so we find that in the online world, connection is probably one of the hardest things to do. In my unscientific theory is because there's not as much of that nonverbal communication, kind of the high fives, the things you get when you're just in the same space as someone, right? Yeah. And so that's one thing we think about deeply at Coach Catalyst is how do we make sure that we are this bridge between a client and a coach, and we're enhancing that relationship and making that relationship stronger rather than fracturing it and making it feel really automated. Because there's a lot of tech out there that you just know that it's automated, that and it just doesn't feel human.
Yeah.
And so yes, there's some automations and that kind of stuff, but we want to kind of put humans first at the end of the day, where the technology enhances the human experience and doesn't try to replace it or detract from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's vital to this industry. I mean, I think that's one of the unique things, especially the areas that I'm sure both of us, we are targeting, obviously the training gyms, boutique style gyms, places like that, where it's there's kind of their specialty is the personalization. I mean, that's what differentiates them. That's what makes them different than the Pelotons or the Soul Cycles or other at-home products. Is how they can develop that relationship with each person and develop that and have that personalized approach that those other options, I mean, it could never do. So I think the way that you guys are setting this up to enhance that is fantastic. And also what I picked up too from what you were saying is what I hear you saying basically is you're also helping coaches be more effective, and I think have a more enjoyable career in the sense of preventing burnout. I think that's a huge thing with coaches, especially very passionate ones, is they want to build connection and do everything they can to establish good relationships and do things. And they usually have good intentions. But obviously, I mean, there's only so much of it we can do before we reach a breaking point. Right. So it sounds like obviously with Coach Catalyst that it takes a lot of kind of the heavy lifting, and then like you said, allows you to have more of that fun, spontaneous interaction too that you'd get in person.
Right. I mean, there's a couple things that lead to burnout, right? For most coaches. One is I am doing things I don't want to do. Right. So you typically got into coaching because you wanted to coach, right? You didn't want to do all this admin, back end numbers. You didn't want to do a lot of that stuff. You wanted to coach people, you want to interact, you want relationships, that kind of stuff. So if you're doing a lot of things that you don't want to do, that just gets frustrating, and then ultimately leads to why am I doing this type thing. And then the second piece that I see leads to burnout is I'm just not making enough money. Right? This is not a sustainable career for me. And then if I'm not making enough money, now those little things become that much more apparent or that much more frustrating. And then this kind of all builds and ultimately we leave the industry. And so that's another thing that we look at Coach Catalyst is how do we help a coach scale? Because what happens with scale is for most people, as they start to scale, is the experience starts to drop off big time because they can't just do all the maybe personal things that they did at the beginning. Because most coaches will start, they do everything, right? They're texting their clients, they're following up, they're sending them things. Like there's just, they have enough time because they only have a couple clients to be able to do all of these extras. But that changes once you get to 10, 15, 20 clients. Like you just don't have that sort of time. And so that's where if you don't have a system in place, you're spending all of your time doing these administrative tasks and following up and trying to figure out what's going on. And not doing the thing that you actually enjoy doing, which is coaching. And so Coach Catalyst, we really talk about how do I coach 100 people in the same amount of time that I would coach one? And so do we have the right systems in place that I can look at a dashboard and see who's on track, off track, look at reporting and see who do I need to follow up with, who's at risk, all of those kind of things. So you can make the correct coaching decisions and you're not having to look for that information. That's one of the biggest frustrations with software, especially with like legacy software, things that have been around forever, is they just don't give you the information you need like right now. You have to go dig for this stuff rather than like it's right there. It's in front of you and then you can take action on it. And so we're constantly kind of evaluating like, do I have access to the most important information I need to coach within a click or two? Like I shouldn't have to dig in to get stuff like important, relevant stuff. And really what we deem as important or relevant is the client doing the thing they need to do? Like they have actions. Did they drink their water? Did they eat their vegetables? Did they do their workout? Like those are the most important things. Because if the client isn't doing that stuff, then like you're probably not going to have a client for very much longer because they're not going to see value in what's going on anymore. You're going to get frustrated because they're not doing what they need to do. And it ultimately becomes a bad experience for the client. So like we really just look at scale. Like how do we scale this so that the same experience I can provide for 2 people, I can provide for 100 people. And you can't do it. Like you can't do it without technology. You can either kind of piece together your own systems and try and use like Zapier or something to connect it all, which isn't always the best thing because something breaks and then everything breaks. Absolutely. And it's not. And so our goal is to bring a lot of those core systems into a single system so that you just kind of have one place that you need to go. And then really looking at how do we consume information now? Like it's very mobile, right? Everyone is on their phone for everything. So we're optimizing everything for mobile from both a client side. And now we're moving to even optimizing more stuff for a coach so that they can do a lot of the actions that they need to do while they're standing in line at Starbucks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So with I guess the idea of it, the personalization side of things, well, I want to ask you a question too with because obviously we do have a lot of like gym owners listening and stuff too. So with using this platform, is it different with bringing a team into it?
Yeah. So like ultimately we built this for their gyms, right? And so I'm in a unique position because I use this across all of my gyms. And so I'm both a user of Coach Catalyst, but then I also get to help kind of drive development and all of that kind of stuff, or what are we developing next? And so definitely selfishly, I'll like kind of push things forward because like I need that for my own facility to make our operations run better. Because we really look at any new client from prospect to paying member in like 2 parts. There's like a front end part, which is all kind of the sales process, right? We're getting the client interested in what we're doing. We're selling them into one of our programs. And then once they buy something, whether it's a front end offer or maybe it's right into a membership, then they move into the back end, which is our delivery aspect. So now we're delivering the experience for the client. So we have processes for the front end. And then our process for the back end is all Coach Catalyst. And so that's where our client journey lives. That's where our 21-day onboarding sequence is. So when a client comes to us for the first time, we've got a sequence that they're going to go on that educates them about who we are, what we're about, introduces them to all the coaches with videos, and just basically onboards them into our process or into our facility. And then we have, because we're using Coach Catalyst, there's a communication tool. And then I can assign clients to different coaches. And so if they're doing like our nutrition coaching, they get assigned to Coach Ashley because she's our nutrition coach, and they get assigned to their main fitness coach, and they get assigned to our admin. So if they have any admin questions, if they have any fitness questions, nutrition questions, they just open their app, type a message in, and then the coaches that need to see it will see it. And then someone responds, and then there's some kind of organization on the back end where that then gets moved into a done folder. So we know that that communication has been taken care of. And so this is critical when you have a team. I think communication is the biggest thing. We used to it used to be a freaking nightmare with us where like someone like send an email to our admin, but it's for one of our other coaches. So it'd get like forwarded along, and then that coach would forget to respond, and our admin wouldn't know that they responded or not. And so like there wasn't any checks and balances. And so now everything comes into a singular inbox, and a coach only sees the clients that they're responsible for or they're connected to. And then we basically have an inbox zero rule where at the end of the day, our inbox should be at zero, meaning all the messages have been marked as done. And that means that every client member question has been taken care of. There's no one kind of waiting in purgatory for a question. Our admin can kind of oversee that, where if there's a message in there that's for a specific coach, they can be like, hey, Justin, there's a message in there. Make sure you get that done before you leave today. And it just helps us stay organized from a communication standpoint. So we're making less mistakes. We're not dropping the ball as much as an organization because we have a good system in place. And like for us too, like we use some other tech pieces inside our gym. So in one of our gyms, we have like a staff of 5. So everyone needs to be able to communicate. We use Slack for like internal communication, which works really, really well. You can get a free version. And so we do all of our internal team communication with Slack, but all client coach relationship stuff is all done in Coach Catalyst. So like messaging is a huge piece there. The other issue we had was tracking data from so we use an InBody. So tracking weight, body fat percentage, like all of these metrics, performance metrics, whatever we want to track on clients. We used to keep it in like spreadsheets and like Google folders, and you had to like go to the Google folder to find the client, to then find the relevant sheet, and then like hope it opens on the iPad, and then like type stuff in. So it was a mess. And like if a client wanted to see their results or like wanted to see their stuff, I'd have to like find the Google link and then like find their email and then like send it over. It was like taking way too much time, right? To do something really simple. And so inside of Coach Catalyst, you have the ability to do number-based and photo-based metrics. And so as an organization, we build the metrics that we track, and then we assign the correct ones to clients. So our fat loss clients are going to be tracking weight and body fat percentage and muscle mass and fat mass and everything we get from our InBody. So those all go in there. And so the client just needs to open up their app, and they can see kind of their graph of their change over time. They can see the data. They can enter in data if we have clients doing stuff from home. Maybe it's taking progress photos and that kind of stuff. So it's just like a two-way street, but it's all stored in one spot. So that's helped clean up some of our operations there. Trying to think of some other ways. Yeah. And then like it's seamless for anything that we do. So if they end up doing nutrition coaching, cool. They just get connected with Ashley inside the app. Then Ashley will start to provide actions and lessons in their journey. So it's really simple there. And then all our transformation challenges, like we have all those built out. So it's really just like plug and play now. Like our onboarding signature programs are all built out. So it's just plug and play. But we onboard the client from day one. So if they come, once they pay us money, they are getting inside of Coach Catalyst because it makes our life just a whole lot easier because it's organized. Right. And when you have a team, like you need that organization, because if you have 4 or 5 people, the likelihood of dropping the ball just becomes that much greater, right? The more people you add to the mix. And I think where a lot of coaches struggle, and I struggle with this as well, is most people start as a kind of a one man or one girl or one woman show, right? And so you can kind of do everything and everything's in your brain. And so like, all the systems, you don't write everything down because you do it every day. It's just part of what you do. But once you bring on that second person and you're doing everything out of your brain, like they're just not going to be successful because you assume that they know this stuff, but you never really taught them and you don't have everything written down. And you don't have a clear system on how to communicate with people. And maybe you're just like using your personal cell phone number. And now when you bring someone on, like it just doesn't work anymore. I wouldn't recommend any coach using their personal cell phone number. for a couple reasons. One is it's really unprofessional. Like at the end of the day, like I know we want to be friends with our clients, but like your doctor, right? Like you don't have your doctor's personal cell phone number or like your physical therapist's personal cell phone number. You're not texting them on Friday nights. Like the coaching industry is a little bit different because we have such a strong relationship with our clients, but having professional boundaries is really, really important so that like you're not sitting at dinner on Friday night and like your client's texting you like, hey, I'm out to eat at Applebee's. Like, what should I get? Like, this is not the time or place for that, but it's coming to your phone. Right. And then you either respond right there and then you make your significant other or your kids mad because you're working while you're having dinner, or you kind of in the back of your mind say, hey, I'm going to respond on Monday, but then you forget, right? Because you got other text messages and other comes, and then like you forget on Monday and then your client's like, hey, what's up? I texted you and you never responded. And then like, that just isn't a good relationship. So having that professional boundary is huge, whether you get another number or use an app like Coach Catalyst where it's all built in there so that when you go to that place, you're doing that work. Versus if it's on your cell phone, like your cell phone is for personal use. And if you're using it for business use, like it's like, what am I using this for at the end of the day? It doesn't get you in the correct mindset. So, I mean, those are kind of the main ways that we use it across a gym space. Like coaching is coaching, whether it's online or whether it's offline. There's like processes are pretty similar. But it's helped us streamline a lot of our operations, especially with a team to just make sure that the client experience is consistent. And we added, the other thing is we added workouts. So we added workouts, I don't know, 6 months ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, now all of our we do a lot of semi-private training. So all of our clients' workouts are inside of Coach Catalyst. So you were using spreadsheets and Google for a while. We paid a developer to build out like a bunch of Google templates for us for building workouts. But since we've done that, now everything is in Coach Catalyst. And so all of our templates, all of the workouts, you can easily click into a client and see when their workouts are. And now our clients, like COVID was actually really good for this. Our clients used to have pen and paper. So they had binders. We'd like print off their workout, put it in the binder. They'd grab their binder when they came in for the workout, pull out their right workout, put it on a clipboard, hang it up while they're working out. But once COVID hit, like everyone was like, no, don't touch anything. Like, cause we're going to spread everywhere. And so we stopped using binders and all of that kind of stuff. And we ultimately moved digital. And so this was kind of, what's this? No, we were using Train Heroic at the time. And so our clients then were bringing in their phones and they were looking at their workouts on their phones, which was awesome because it was moving us towards like a digital delivery model. And then once we developed workouts inside Coach Catalyst, we moved away from Train Heroic to Coach Catalyst, and our clients were already like used to using their phones. And so now we don't have pen and paper. We don't have to like print off people's workouts and put them in binders. Like it's all digital. Yeah. And the clients just bring their phone in and they open up the app. It has their workout right there. They click it open. It's all right there. And we do with a semi-private model, we could have potentially 8 people in the facility at one time with a coach. And so you can't like physically be with 8 people. And so because we have videos and everything with all the exercises, a client, if they need to just be reminded on what an exercise is, they just, click the video. Oh, cool. That's what it is. And they can keep moving, rather than when we were pen and paper, a client would look at an exercise, half kneeling, one arm, horizontal row. And they're just like, what is this? Right. And so they would just stand there and wait until the coach was done they were coaching someone else to come back to that person. Right. And so now where the client can look at a video really quickly, they can keep moving through their workout and we have much better flow with everything. And we're able to like swap out exercises. Like every coach knows, like client comes in and they're like, oh, I fell, or I was playing softball and I have a bum shoulder or whatever. And like now their entire workout is essentially like screwed from an upper body standpoint. And if you're all pen and paper, now I have to like delete all of that and like reprint it, go back to my Excel spreadsheet, pop things out. And my little 3-year-old just walked in the room. So you probably heard a small child scream. But we went to, so it was just really challenging. Yeah, I got reprinted, put it back in their binder. Now, like, it's literally like go into their workout. I find the exercise that I want to swap out. I swap it. I update for every workout moving forward. And like, it literally takes me 3 seconds. And so like, until you move to something, you don't realize like how long and how many headaches you actually had when you're kind of in the analog world to an extent. So that's been huge for us in a facility standpoint. And like it now allows us to move into a hybrid model really easily because our clients are already used to digitally delivered workouts. And so they can work out 1 day a week in the gym and 3 days at home, and we can program for everyone, and it's all in one spot. Versus like before, we had Coach Catalyst and we had Train Heroic, and the clients had to go to Train Heroic for workouts and Coach Catalyst for other things. And so having things streamlined now is just improve the client experience at the end of the day, and it just made it easier. Not that it was terrible and people didn't do it, but it was just it just wasn't clean, right? At the end of the day.
That's part of the game. It's always like, how can we be doing this better? I mean, I think if you're not looking at things that way, then you're probably slowly dying in your business because you're just accepting what is, and what isn't going to necessarily be good a year from now.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it's constantly changing, and technology is helping change that as well. And so if you're not adapting technology into your business, like you're going to start getting passed up because these clients will have experiences in other places with technology and how it improved their experience. And then when they come to you, it's just not going to quite be the same. And so, especially in that boutique space, because you have the ability to adapt and change things quickly. Like you just kind of got to be looking for what's next. Right.
Yeah. Well, on that note, obviously with the technology piece, obviously it's not going anywhere in the fitness space.
No.
Like, where are you guys seeing the technology space going, and like, how is Coach Catalyst staying on like the leading edge of that?
Yeah. I mean, so for us, like our core tenet is coaching, right? And our core tenet is humans. And so it's like, how do we use technology and develop technology to enhance the human experience and make the coaching process better, right? And so what tech does really well is systems and data at the end of the day. And so how do we extract that data and find what's meaningful and then give that to the coach so that they can act on that data, right? And so some examples could be like Susie loses 10 pounds. Right. Unless I look into Susie's account, I probably don't understand that she lost 10 pounds. But with technology, I could set up an automation that basically said, if a client in my account loses 10 pounds, notify me. Or if a client in my account loses 10 pounds, here's the templated message I want you to send. Or like, I think there's ways where we can take this data that we're collecting and how do we extract it and then give it to a coach, either to press the send button on or automate the delivery so that, again, the coach becomes like superhuman because they're seeing everything.
Coach.
Right. Exactly. At the end of the day, because the technology is really analyzing the data. But as a coach, you tell the technology what data is important to you. Where I think a lot of softwares get it wrong is they just kind of give you all of the data, or they give you what they think is important. And so as a coach, where we look at Coach Catalyst is we're building out rules so that you as a coach get to define what data is important to you. And then you get to determine what's the next steps. Is the next step an automation, or is the next step, it builds out a message for you and then you get to proofread it and then hit send. So you can still keep some of that personal experience if you want that. But ultimately, I think that's a big piece of where it goes. And then starting to collect a lot of this data as well. So for us, like integrations are going to be a big piece of our roadmap in this upcoming year, where we just integrated with Chronometer, which is it's kind of like MyFitnessPal, where it tracks macros and food logs and all that kind of stuff, but starting to integrate with all these other kind of devices out there and start bringing all that data into a singular spot. And then we can analyze the data and do what we need to, and then ultimately give the coach what they need to be a good coach. But they get to determine that, because what's important to me as a coach may be different than what's important for you as a coach. And so like too many softwares just have this like activity feed where it's just like everything that's ever happened in the software over the last however long. And it's like, no one ever looks at that or wants to look at that, or like no one wants to like comb through every piece of it. Like, I just want the things that I think are important. And so that's kind of where we're really starting to look at the next piece of Coach Catalyst is how do we take all this data, synthesize it down in a way that the coach deems as valuable, rather than just like vomiting all this data and hoping that a coach can kind of sift through it in a way. Because from a core feature standpoint, I think I think we pretty much have everything. I mean, there might be a few things here and there that we need to do, but from a coaching standpoint, it pretty much has everything you need to do from a client coach relationship standpoint. So then it's just like, how do we make the coach more effective? So how do we save the coach time, which then they could choose to do what they want with that time. They can work more, they can go get more clients, they can take time off, whatever. But tech allows you to kind of save that time for the important things that you want to do as a coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like this truly, I think like you guys are building have built obviously like a one-stop shop in that sense of not only fulfillment side of things, but also internal operations. I mean, like that's huge. I mean, you guys are truly addressing a lot of the major issues that gym owners face or independent trainers face when it comes to, like you said, not only fulfilling the service and keeping the high level of quality, but also just maintaining the business itself. So I think this is a fantastic direction that you guys are going in. And if I had a gym right now, I would be using this service as well, because that's what I want. I want speed and efficiency and high quality. I mean, like those three things together that's what's going to allow you, like you said, to keep scaling in a rate that doesn't, you don't have things breaking along the way. I think that's what a lot of people have issues. Obviously, as soon as they start trying to take a step up from where they are, things start breaking. And this kind of protects you from having that experience and has things set in place to prevent a lot of the common issues that would happen as you start evolving in your business. And when it comes to working with Coach Callis, like, is there, I mean, like, do you guys recommend, like, is there any like time or play or development in their journey when they should start using a service like this? Or is it kind of like it's day one, even you can get going?
I mean, with any new coach, the earlier you can develop systems, like the better your business is going to be, and the faster you're going to be able to scale up if that's something that you want to do, and preserve the client experience at the end of the day. And so developing the systems where, you know, what's my fulfillment look like for a client, like having a system in place. Coach Catalyst, like the sooner you can do it, the better, because like the less stuff you have to comb through. Mm-hmm. And so I had a gym long before we had Coach Catalyst. And so we had to kind of transition like 200 people into this new system. And so if you have just one or two clients, it's a lot easier to transition someone into a new system than if you have 200, right? Yeah. Not impossible with 200. Like we've done it. We've coached a lot of gyms through kind of the systems of how do you move clients from kind of what we're doing now to something like this. But the less moving parts that you have, the easier it is to transition. And ultimately you have to think about like, what's the experience that we want for our clients? Because like at the end of the day, right, like fitness is fitness, workouts are workouts. The difference between you and someone else down the street is going to be the experience that the client has with your facility, with your staff. And so you may say that you have better workouts or you get better results or yada, yada, yada. Like everyone says that, no one cares. Like what clients actually care about is like, how do they feel when they're at their facility? Like, are they taken care of? And do you provide a really good experience for them? Are you solving the things that they need? And if you don't have the systems to do that, then like you're not going to win at the end of the day. And so like, one, it's like defining what your clients need and what they want. Like if they're coming to you for weight loss and fat loss, like, yeah, workouts are great, and workouts are a great reason for them to be showing up on a regular basis, but nutrition should be a pretty big component of their program, because that's how you're ultimately going to get them to where that client wants to go. Right. And so having those systems in place where it's easy to deliver the workouts, it's easy to deliver the nutrition, it's easy to deliver the education. Communication is simple. Clients don't have to look up your phone number every time they want to contact you. Clients don't have to contact you to figure out their numbers from their last body composition, like making it as simple for the client as possible. Because what's going to happen is maybe you have a client, maybe you have great systems in place and a client leaves and they go somewhere else down the street and they don't have those systems in place. They're going to realize how much better your place was because everything was dialed in, and you're going to look even better, and they'll probably end up coming back because it's kind of like the grass is always greener on the other side until you get to the other side. And then you realize like, well, maybe the grass was a little bit greener where I was before. And so like, if you have your stuff dialed in, you have your client experience dialed in, you have all of this stuff dialed in. If a client does leave and go somewhere else and has an experience, they'll realize very quickly that, hey, it was pretty good there. And they really had things dialed in. And I felt good there. And so it's an easy way to get clients to come back to by just having a phenomenal customer experience at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. That's a huge way to differentiate yourself from the marketplace and just from other businesses in general. It's not always the same industry that you're competing against. You're competing against just everywhere that they're going as well, and the customer experience and overall experience. But I mean, like Trevor, I mean, this has been a fantastic conversation. As we work towards wrapping up, as I mentioned to you before, I kind of like to end on getting like your perspective on this. But like say like a gym owner came to you looking for support or guidance based on your background and experience, what do you feel is the most important thing for that gym owner to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the stage on what where that gym owner is at, I think is really important on what that next step is. But I think trying to get a vision on what you want things to look like, and then you can start to build from there. Like some people, like everyone thinks bigger is better, which isn't necessarily the case, right? And a lot of people find out that bigger is actually just more headaches, and profit margins aren't as great as you thought they would be. And so, really working backwards on what do you want your business to look like? What kind of profit margins do you want? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? How many hours do you want to work? And then from there, you can start to kind of backtrack and figure out, all right, what's the next step to move towards that vision? Because the more clarity you can have, the better. And this is something I did not do well at all. Like I'm always just kind of like, what's the next thing? Let's go bigger, whatever. Like let's just keep pushing the envelope and keep doing things till they break. And had I maybe taken the time and really tried to figure out a little bit more clarity, I probably would have gotten places faster, because it would have been more of a straight line rather than a, back and forth trying to figure it out. Oh, I don't like this, we'll change it. Oh, I don't like this, we'll change it. And we'll eventually get to where we want to get to. But it was a lot of zigzagging versus getting really clear. So I think clarity is huge, because once you have clarity, like then it's just really figuring out the steps to get there. And it may be 4 or 5 years out or whatever. But I think we get trapped into this in the gym world, especially in the personal trainer world, is like kind of like gym ownership is like the ultimate. It's kind of like the pinnacle. But if you're a great coach and you want to coach people, like gym ownership is probably not the best spot for you to be, because now you're not really coaching people all that much anymore. And especially if you have a staff, like you're responsible for like paying your staff. And so you need to go get clients, and like it's a completely different skill set. And so it's really defining on like what you want. So if you have that clarity on maybe you just want to be a great coach and well paid, then go find the best gym and go work for them and be a big part. And maybe, you do enough where you get some buy-in and you become a partner in that facility, right? But you're responsible for the coaching aspect of it. But if you don't have clarity, you end up everyone ultimately ends up owning a gym, where not everyone should be owning the gym. Some people should be working with a really good owner, and handling the coaching stuff. And so I think you can kind of get caught in that trap. And so I think it all boils down to clarity. So if you can get clarity on where you want to be and what that looks like, and probably like interview a few of those people and see like, what does that actually look like? Because many times when you're, amongst the forest, all you see are the trees. You can't see the whole thing. And so interviewing those people of like, hey, I think I want to be here. I think I want to be a gym owner. Cool. Go interview 3 or 4 gym owners and just kind of see what their day-to-day is like, see what they really like about it, see what they don't like about it. If you want to be more of a coaching style, go do that. And like figure out, you can talk to those people and they'll tell you, and then you can decide, oh, that is where I want to go, or it's not where I want to go, versus spending 3 years to get there. And then you get there and you're like, oh shoot, this isn't what I thought it would be like at the end of the day. And so I think it all comes down to some clarity.
Love it. And I couldn't agree more. I think that's definitely a powerful thing. And yeah, the clarity triggers everything and allows everything else to happen. But I think that's a great way to wrap up this conversation. And I just wanted to say, like, thank you again, Trevor, for your time to come on here and obviously share your insights, obviously talking on Coach Catalyst and how it can help gym owners and it's really the impact that you're having in this industry. Like, thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. Like our goal with Coach Catalyst is to provide a solution so coaches can scale. Right. There's a lot of issues with our world. And so if we can get a coach to get 100 clients instead of 5 clients, like that's more of like our bigger impact. Right. And so we can start to actually make a dent in some of these issues that we're seeing all over the world. So appreciate you for giving us this platform to talk a little bit about what we're doing. And if people want to find out more about Coach Catalyst, like pretty simple, coachcatalyst.com, check it out. We've got trials, we've got all the fun stuff. So if you feel like it's something that resonates with you, give it a shot and see how it goes.
Absolutely. And I hope you guys do check it out and reach out. If you haven't gathered from this conversation how much of an impact it can have on your business, then I think you need to re-listen to this. And we'll definitely have the links in the show notes as well, so you can easily connect with Coach Catalyst and Trevor. So if any questions that you have, you can get those addressed, or again, like you want to check out how Coach Catalyst can help you, that would be the place for you to access those links. And last thing I want to do is obviously thank you, the listener. Without you, there wouldn't be a show. And I'm happy that you're looking for ways and resources to improve your business. It's vital to make sure that you continually grow. And like I always bring up, make sure that you're not just listening to listen to take action. So make sure, like, if you have to go back through this conversation and digest it and take notes, then that's what you need to do, because that's how you're going to benefit from every resource that you are taking in. So we don't want this to be something that just collects digital dust, if you will. With that being said, I look forward to having you join us on the next episode of the Fitness Business Freedom Show. Thank you so much and take care.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode on the Fitness Business Freedom Show. On behalf of Fitness Revolution and myself, we are thrilled you are looking for ways and resources to move your business forward, and we are honored to be that source for you. If you would like to receive more business building support from us, be sure to head over to the show notes and join our subscriber list and stay on top of all the industry insights that matter most to you. Now, before I close out today's show, if you found this episode beneficial in any way, I just ask you to leave us a simple review to help other gym owners find us and discover this show. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next episode of the Fitness Business Freedom Show.